In Berlin, statement from January 21, 2015, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Germany, France, and Russia, they called to immediate ceasefire and pulling back heavy weapons from the line of separation according to Minsk agreements. But civilians in Donbass continue to die because of shelling of gangs and militants. The list of victims of cynical attacks near Volnovakha, including is added with new names of civilians who died as a result of shelling upon a trolley bus in Donetsk. Minister of Foreign Affairs despises any use of armed forces against civilians, and Ukraine is complying with the ceasefire and does everything possible to prevent further victims among civilians. Artillery must get quiet, and the regime of ceasefire should be reestablished again. Militants, Russian regular units, and heavy military equipment, weapons must leave the territory of Ukraine. The control of Ukraine over state border must be re-established. These steps will bring peace and security to Donbass, and that will allow to investigate all death and to preserve lives of people. Special Monitoring Commission OSCE in the east of Ukraine. In this report, they provided evidence of Ukrainian military men Kyiv about the use by pro-Russian militants. They used chemical weapons and chemical gas in Donetsk airport, and as he says, many Ukrainian cyborgs of they were poisoned, and now they collect evidence about this incident. The use of chemical weapons is prohibited by the Convention on Prohibition of Development, Accumulation, and Use of Chemical Weapons, and it's about this instrument in 1993 that was signed by 190 countries of the world. During the last day, the situation in ATO area can be described as a heavy opposition between the Russian terrorist groups and units of ATO. Militants are trying to hold strategically good positions for further military operations. Russian Federation continues to strengthen its military contingent in the east of Ukraine. On key operational directions, there is a replacement of groups of militants, and they are replaced with military men of Russian Federation. General number of whom on those territories is the highest since the beginning of the conflict in Donbass. More than 9,000 of Russian military men. The command of Russian Federation provides the supplies of men and military equipment, and they also have anti-aircraft means and intelligence already electronic fight. Because of Ukrainian, the part of Ukrainian-Russian border is not controlled, they bring a lot of ammunition, about 30-40 trucks a day. With that goal, and also to provide rotation of Russian military men to the border with our state, they redislocated some units of armed forces of Russian Federation, including the 20th Guard Army of Western District of Russian Federation, with the staff in Nizhegorodsky region. Militants of so-called DNR and NLR was shelling upon the position of ATO in all the directions. They used artillery, mortars, tanks, and HRAD system. During the last day, we lost 3 Ukrainian military men and 50 were wounded. Yesterday, with the goal to discredit armed forces of Ukraine, the leadership of terrorist organization DNR, they organized a march of prisoners in Donetsk that was meant to humiliate the Ukrainian military men, and that contradicts the norms of Geneva Convention from 1945. It was condemned by Amnesty International and OSCE. At present, there are active negotiations with leaders of gangs on liberation of Ukrainian prisoners, and we were able to liberate 3 and to return bodies of 8 who died. In Luhansk region, on the territory which is under LNR, there were fights between terrorists and Cossacks of Ataman Kozitsyn. leader Kozitsyn of Cossacks, leader of Cossacks. As a result, under Stalin, there was a school and where there were lessons, and luckily, no casualties. In Donetsk region, because of the shelling by terrorists upon Kirov, Dzerzhinsky city council and northern mine is without power, and 84 miners were underground because of operational and professional work of Ukrainian rescuers. All miners were taken up to the surface. To Krasnoyarsk in Donetsk region, a group of IDPs came from Severny, from Yasynovate district, and 35 of them, 7 children. IDPs in a school, were placed in a school, and they provided with food and hygiene items. In Konstantinov district in Donetsk region, representatives of Ukrainian authorities, they handed out humanitarian aid and in the form of food, children food, and mattresses and pillows. And there is a work of operational groups to provide police to provide public orders, and in order to strengthen ATO means is beyond Peruvians. Kharkiv region had a successful special operation to arrest a militant from Oplot group.
We are now at the garage where we are surveying the site of the accident. We found fragment of a letter, and in the bucket we see a cloth, a piece of cloth, within which there's a gun, handgun, with a live ammunition. Also, there are rounds of ammunition in the bucket. We will count them later. A live round, 7.62 revolver. It has been established that a 35-year-old local resident took part in combat on the side of the terrorist organization DNR against the armed forces of Ukraine in the vicinity of the cities Starobeshevo and Dokuchaevsk, Donetsk region, and you saw how the law enforcers found his pistols and rounds of ammunition. Ukrainians display vigilance and disrupt sabotage. Yesterday in the city of Smila, Cherkasy region, on the territory of a railway station named after Taras Shevchenko, by the pedestrian bridge, they found a bag which contained 3 grenades, 600 grams of explosive, and a explosive device. The Ukrainian authorities thanked the patriots for vigilance, and there's a regular wave of partial mobilization in Ukraine. On the 20th of January, in the first day of mobilization in Kharkiv, more than 2,000 volunteers, patriots who are prepared to fight for their motherland with arms in their hands, have come to local military commissariats. Also in January, only in Kharkiv, more than 100 residents of Donbass displayed their desire to serve in the armed forces of Ukraine. Yesterday, President Poroshenko signed a decree about awarding Ukrainian military for their personal valor and heroism, high level of professionalism, and keeping to their military oath. 170 military servicemen were awarded, starting from private soldiers to officers, riflemen, intelligence, servicemen. Ukraine continues to technically re-equip the army. Today, on the 23rd of January, on Goncharivsky testing ground, there's a show of armaments and military vehicles that are being developed by the Ukrainian military-industrial complex. We will present the NU lightly armored vehicle with an automated block of armaments Cyborg, a grenade launcher with ammunition of high power, infantry flamethrower, a drone, Moto Delta plan for special operations, and others. Yesterday, from Rivne region to the zone of anti-terrorist operation, a mobile set for warming and rest and defense of Ukrainian warriors was sent. It's meant to hold in 20 fighters and will be placed on one of the road checkpoints in Luhansk region. In Odessa, the students of Berezovsky High Professional School of the Odessa National Polytechnic have produced masking meshes and sent them to the anti-terrorist operation zone. The fighters of the National Guards of Ukraine who are being treated in medical establishments of Kiev from wounds have got gifts from the Ukrainian diaspora in Canada. Also yesterday, Ukrainian performers came to the military servicemen of National Guards from the Battalion of Operative Designation named after General Sergei Kulchitsky, hero of Ukraine. 5 policemen who took part in the anti-terrorist operation were awarded by the city and regional command of Vinnytsia for patriotism, valor, and bravery. The rotation of Ukrainian military is going on, and the detachment and company of patrol service of militia of special designation Svites was sent to the anti-terrorist operation zone. They got new uniform, protective armor, special means, arms, rounds of ammunition, and medical preparations and disposals. Volunteers of the Regional Coordination Center of the Anti-Terrorist Operation Zone helped come there. Yesterday in Kharkov, a transit town for IDPs was opened. It consists of 13 houses and 383 people may live there. The opening of the town was possible because of the all-round humanitarian help from the government of Germany and personal participation of German Ambassador Dr. Christoph Weil, and transit cities, towns will also function in Zaporizhia, Dnipropetrovsk, Dnipro-Dzержinsk, Nikopol, Kryvyi Rih, Pavlograd. The Federal Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, said that with its invasion of Ukraine, Russia has violated the principles of European structure that have been in existence since World War II, and the sanctions will continue until Russia stops its intrusion.
Could you clarify? 3 dismissed from captivity. Are those who were arrested in Donetsk, detained in Donetsk airport? Yes. In ATO, do you have information about that they brought a RAT system to Donetsk? And if yes, how many? And is it true that Russia brought 2 Smerch also brought the system Smerch? And what is the situation on checkpoint 31? military equipment that is brought from by Russian Federation through uncontrolled parts of state border of Ukraine is in Luhansk, in Donetsk, and on the territories that are under control of militants. Among that equipment, there is Smerch also system. As to checkpoint 31, it's not just a checkpoint. This is a system of fortification, and now it turned to be in a battlefield. So we don't have our military men on that checkpoint. They pulled back to the other position and but they stopped the movement of pro-Russian militants and they hold positions there. Is it true that there is a battle? Could you verify there is a battle around checkpoint 31? And how many Smerch systems are on Ukrainian territory? And how dangerous it is? As to the number of Smerch, we don't know how many. We know that they have. It's much more powerful than Harad. Its caliber is more than 200 millimeters, and it can reach further. They can fire the span. It can reach over 100 kilometers. One of the representatives of militants, Pavel Gubrev, he says that Boyvik's militants attack along the whole front line, and Piski, he says, is under the control of militants, and also they storm checkpoints at 38, and also they move to Popasna-Troitsk, and they're trying to make it in there. And also they clean up Shumy village, and also they control Krasny Partizan, Verkhny Troitsk. They have clean operations there. Is it true or not? A lot of information from that person and from the main militant DNR. I have an impression that they reposted information from Kremlin, and they don't see the real situation. Piski is under the control of Ukrainian military, and all the rest what they said, it's not true. So all the positions that we had before until the morning, we are still there. Except checkpoint 32, we had to leave it. All the rest are under our control, and the same about Donetsk airport, which turned to be a battlefield, and one part of it is under the control of Ukrainian military men. STB TV channel. In the network, there is information about Ukraine that from Russia to Ukraine, 160 tanks came, 200 commanders with personnel. We don't have such information. I'm not ready to confirm it. Artem Ludek, News 24, as said to the statement of leader of militants, Zakharchenko, that there will be no exchange of prisoners. Is there a dialogue? Is it possible to swap military men? How many military prisoners are there? And do we have also prisoners to use as an exchange? We took back 3 prisoners, and Zakharchenko was present. I have an impression that he doesn't see those messages. They just refer to him. He doesn't know the situation which they really have there. And the workers to liberation of our military men who were arrested during that battle. And we continue working. We wanted to liberate, and we have many of militants arrested. Coming back to Alexander Lysenko, the head of DNR, in Russian media there is information that he announced that they ceased negotiations with Kiev. Does it mean that there will be no negotiations anymore? Once again, I have an impression that before he knows about that message, he doesn't know about that message because Russian media, first of all, they make that for themselves, and also they introduce Ukrainian media with that. And then maybe Zakharchenko will know about that. That's why to speak about how realistic those messages are, it's very difficult. There are too many questions to them. There were statements that there was info that, oh yes, they stop peace or anything. There was no such a day that they didn't shell. Yes, they shelled, yes. They shelled less on some days, but never stopped. They shelled more or less. During the last week, we see intensification of shelling. So when they decided to pull back from peace negotiations, I don't know when, because they abused that regime. There is information that militants control Svitlodarsk. I don't have information about that. One more clarification about the statements of Zakharchenko to Ukraine. It seems to me it doesn't matter from where and who distributes that information, but it comes, we have to verify it if we get it. So that's why we have a question. Ukrainian projects, are they strengthened? Is there assistance that comes to the front line, and where to? Because of intensification of shelling and more personnel and weapons from the Russian Federation, our units on the front line, they are strengthened, and we use reserves, and we have some lines of defense. That's why to say that we just listen to announcements, no, it's not true. We draw conclusions, and the leadership of the country, they monitor the situation, and they get also there are orders that come to the troops, and that's why they get assistance, and also they get reserve. And one more way of mobilization shows that we are in the process. And a lot of patriots that who are not waiting when they receive an invitation from the military commissioner and they go to the front line, and it proves that the general tonality, the general mood in the state is we need to show that people wanted to defend our country, and that we want to stop the enemy. Peaceful negotiation. We support peaceful negotiations, and we are trying to achieve some agreements on that. Militants finally stop getting assistance from Russian Federation. They should be pulled out from Ukraine, and there should be control over Ukrainian border, and we should get all military prisoners back, all the hostages, and together with Ukrainian military men, there are more than 600 hostages militants have. If militants continue the offense, will Ukrainian military men only respond, or will they be allowed to attack and to pull that offense back, to fight off? Because Minsk agreements are in force, Ukrainian military men will stay on the separation line, which was established on September 19 last year. So it doesn't matter who, Zakharchenko or Putin, say about if they ignore ceasefire, Ukrainian military men will comply with it. Yesterday, there were negotiations on the level of ministers of foreign affairs in Berlin, and there are some agreements. There is some progress. There's progress, and as long as we have a chance for negotiations and with the participation of all the parties, we'll try to have that for that conflict to be resolved politically and peacefully. Thank you very much. Next briefing of Colonel Lysenko will be tomorrow at 12.